Hi everyone, it's Margaret here with 60 and Me. I have been so inspired by women who are older than 60 and the work that they've done in the past, and did some research and want to start a little series of women who have changed the world, changed the world in their later years, and start with a woman called Marie Curie. Now, Marie Curie is someone that I knew that she was involved with radioactivity and science and research, but her story is so wonderful. And I'm going to just share with you from my notes because I'm not a historian. I don't know all the detail, but she was a woman who was so an extraordinary scientist, and she was the first woman to receive the Nobel Prize. In fact, she won it twice. And her perseverance, her resilience, and her dedication to her work, which ultimately led to her death, I think are just so inspirational. And I want you to be thinking for people that you'd like to know more about, women in their older years, over 60, 50, 60, who just made a statement, got started and decided to change the world. But she was quite amazing. She had a really path-breaking role in women in science and in a male-dominated world. I mean, don't forget, she was born in 1867 in Poland, in Warsaw, and I think Warsaw at that point was part of the Russian Empire. So she was born in Warsaw, Poland. She had limited resources when she was growing up, in the sense that she wasn't wealthy, but she didn't have access to education. Back there in those days, girls were not going to university like they are today. So she studied on her own. She made her own way, and she actually had, according to the research and the people that knew her and wrote about it, she had an extraordinary academic awareness and understanding. She was bright, she was brilliant, and she really liked to learn. And she participated in this underground women's education system. I think it was called the Floating University, and it was higher education, sort of underground, for women who wanted to learn. They weren't able to get into the schools. They weren't able to learn science. And she moved to Paris when she was 24, and she enrolled at the Sorbonne. Now, because she enrolled at the Sorbonne, and this would be in the late 1800s, she must have had a bit of money. And so I'm thinking there was something there that enabled her to be able to get into that school. But maybe her excellence alone, her academic prowess and her knowledge. So she studied physics and math. She met this man called Marie Curie in college, and they were got together and married in 1895, and they became this force in science, working on investigating uranium. And she and he sort of invented the term radioactivity, and so they worked in their science laboratories working on research. And she actually were together. They discovered this thing called polonium radium, which is, and they isolated these two unique characteristics of it. I think it was radium and polonium. I mean, I'm not a scientist, right? So I'm just reading my notes. But she and her husband figured this out, and they got the Nobel Prize in 1903. A shared Nobel Prize, and it was with another gentleman called Henri Becquerel, and she was the first woman to receive a Nobel Prize. Amazing. So she overcame lots of hardships as a woman. She faced skepticism and prejudice, and she just wasn't able to move forward in the world that men had easy access to. But she kept going. She didn't give up. She knew that this was her life's mission. She had to do this, and so she created makeshift labs, and she didn't have much funding, but she got things done. And she was working with very dangerous equipment, with this radioactive uranium. And she was not, well, she was obviously must have been afraid or concerned, but she knew that she wasn't going to get the answers that she needed without touching it and digging into it and experimenting with it. So she actually lost her husband. He died in 1906, and she must have had children, because my notes here say that she juggled motherhood and a scientific career. So in her later life, as her children grow up, she continued her research, and she won a second Nobel Prize in 1911. She was the first person ever to receive two Nobel Prizes, so really quite an accolade. And she then, this discovery, it isn't abstract. It was used for medical technology, and she during the World War I, she helped to use this material to actually help with X-rays and medical techniques that were helpful in the ambulances during World War One. So she really did add something very concrete from her research to the world, and it was of course to aid wounded soldiers, and that was her whole mission. So her work led a foundation for atomic research, that went on and on. Radiochemistry. She is an inspiration for women, in my opinion, because she opened doors for female scientists and just did her work tirelessly. And it reminds me of some of the, when I was at Microsoft in the 90s, early 2000s, there were a lot of, I think it's STEM, is it, for women in technology. And, there's so much, still at that point, even back then in the 80s and 90s, there was a stereotype that women were not appropriate for the scientific topics. And now, of course, they're not. They're astronauts. They're doing all kinds of things in science. She was resilient. She broke down aging stereotypes. She broke down social barriers, and she just got it done. Now, she actually died in, let me think, I don't have her date. I think I'm looking at my notes here, but no, I haven't got the date, but she actually died because of her radiation research. And apparently she's buried in, I think in Paris, and she is in a lead-proof coffin because her body was filled with radioactivity, basically. And it was because she, she was continuing her research on what it could do, how it could be used. And she ended up, it was the end of her own life, but she did it. She sacrificed for that reason. Super, super powerful story. I mean, I think, a couple of things. And one, it reminds us how valuable education is, and how, given everything that's going on, we need to continue to educate women, men, and continue the journey to understand our world better, and not to hold back on that. It encourages us to expand our horizons, to not think small. I mean, she actually was so dedicated and passionate about it. She, broke down barriers and got it done. But she also was curious, and that's kind of the curiosity that I always talk about. I hope that I can embody, and hopefully you can too. But it's just that sense that there's something we can discover in everything that we find fascinating. And we have to find things fascinating, and just not just in science, of course, but technology, in the way that we live our lives in general. And I think she was a beam of light in that whole process of enabling women to be strong in science and technology, and a partner in the world of discovery and science. Anyway, I thought Marie Curie was fascinating. I'm sure somebody's going to come back with a story that I didn't know that makes it, sort of gives it another shade. But for me, it was a cool story. So is there anyone else that you would like to know about who had an impact on your life, or has had an impact on your life? Someone, maybe that lived hundreds of years ago, or 100 years ago, or just currently today. And I'll do some research and we'll have a chat about it. But I just think it's really cool to see that there are women out there doing amazing things, and we can celebrate their tenacity, their resilience, their strength, and the losses that they went through too, the things they gave up, and what they achieved for our society, for our world. What do you think? Marie Curie. Marie Curie. I'm probably pronouncing it right. It's probably Marie Curie in French, but I'm not French, so I don't speak the language well. A little bit. But anyway, I hope that you're all well and you enjoyed this story. Please leave your comments below. Please share this video with your friends. Like it at a minimum. Just give it a thumbs up, okay? And share the video here on YouTube and other places, because why not? We just want everyone to know about 60andMe, what we're doing, and how we're here to help everyone, women over 60, 50, any woman. Okay, everyone. Well, have a fabulous day, whatever you're up to, and we'll talk again soon.